Welcome back, everybody, after the break. Thank you very much for coming back and joining us in the next section of the bilateral arrangements and working arrangements. This afternoon, we will be looking at the next portion, which is the Transport Canada and the Canadian working arrangements that we have in place. So I'll be handing over again to Pete Prendergast and a number of other people who will lead us through that Transport Canada working arrangement. Pete.
Hello, welcome back again. I'm joined in this section by two colleagues from Transport Canada, Mr. Jeff Phipps, who is the Chief of Operational Airworthiness, and Mr. Dean Barrett, who is the Programme Manager for the Approved Organisations section. Welcome, Jeff and Dean. So this is a look really at the working arrangement between Transport Canada and the UK CAA. As Mark and Dominic said in their agreements, in their presentations, this is an agreement between the two authorities as opposed to the FAA one, which is between a government. Next slide, please. Quick look at the structure there. So we've got the working arrangement sitting as the primary document. Sitting below that on the right-hand side, we have the TIP, the certification side of things. That does exactly what the TIP does under the existing EU arrangement. There's no difference in there. So it's information for the maintenance community, really, which is around acceptance of repair data, acceptable data for mods, export requirements. So exactly what you'd expect to see in the TIP today is in the TIP under the working arrangement. Coming down then on the left-hand side is the technical arrangement on maintenance, or a TAM. This takes the place of the MAG. So it's a slight terminology change there. We now have technical arrangements on maintenance, a TAM, where we used to have a MAG. So we've got Annex 2 and Annex 3 here. Annex 1 talks about the continuation of approvals and certificates, and we'll have a very brief look at that in a couple of slides' time. Next slide, please. So as you've seen in all of the other arrangements, really, the working arrangement itself is a very high-level document between the authorities. It covers the purpose of the arrangement, territorial applications, how the two authorities are going to interact with each other in order to make the agreement work, confidentiality, cost recovery, etc., etc. So nothing unusual in that side of things. Next slide, please. Some of the purpose of the arrangements. Obviously, it's there really for sharing and monitoring of continuing of approvals around in-service aircraft. So the working arrangement covers certification side of things, the approval of products, the approval of data for repairs, approval and monitoring of production organisations as well as maintenance organisations, design-related operational requirements, and the approval and environmental testing of products. Next slide, please. The arrangements itself covers organisations that have their principal places of business within the territory of Canada or within the territory of the UK. So there were a couple of questions I saw on previous presentations where they were asking about being able to hold approvals under the UK agreements for third country organisations. If your principal place of business is not within the territorial boundaries of the participants, so within the territory of the UK or the territory of Canada, then you won't be party to this agreement. You won't be able to enjoy the privileges of it. Next slide, please. So this is a look at Annex 1. If you remember, Annex 2 and 3 were the TIP and the TAM. Annex 1 basically looks at the continual recognition of existing approvals. And it does that by Transport Canada recognising the Withdrawal Act and the ongoing recognition of and validity of EASA issued approvals. It also covers the ongoing recognition of EASA issued certificates, releases or approval, so long as they remain valid. So basically everything that EASA has issued or has been issued under the EASA system prior to the end of the transition period on the 23rd of December remains valid going forward. Next slide, please. Annex 1 also covers maintenance organisations. So EASA approved maintenance organisations will continue to be recognised by Transport Canada as it affects this agreement for a period of up to 2 years from the end of the transition period. Any maintenance releases made by an EASA Part 145 organisation will continue to remain valid after the 2-year period for as long as they last, unless they're suspended or revoked. So Part 144, EASA Part 145 organisations, where there's an impact on this agreement, continuing to be recognised for 2 years. Any releases made by those organisations will be recognised beyond the 2-year period, unless the release itself is made invalid in some fashion. Next slide, please. So here we are going to look at the technical arrangements for maintenance, the TAM. All I'm really going to look at here is the differences. So this is where the TAM differs from the current MAG. That's all we're going to look at. Where it doesn't differ, I'm not going to comment because you already have considerable experience in this. The object of it is to outline the terms and conditions under which the authorities recognise and accept each other's safety programmes, and the certification of aircraft maintenance. Next slide, please. Section A of the TAM, exactly as it was in the MAG, deals with authority interaction. So it's how the two authorities are going to manage the agreement, basically at a shop floor level. So it talks about the interaction between the authorities, how they will oversee each other's compliance with their responsibilities within it through a sampling inspection system, very much the same as the FAA system, what to do if there are non-compliance or safety issues, how funding will be carried out in order to fund the agreement, and how the agreement will enter into operation. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a significant change. For a start, on a less significant note, UK-based requirements are now in Section B of the TAM. They were in Section C of the MAG, they're now in Section B of the TAM. And you'll see here that Section B is only for aircraft-rated maintenance organisations. That is because non-aircraft rated maintenance organisations, the output of those is mutually accepted. So there is mutual acceptance of B, C and D rated organisations. So if you're a B, a C or a D rated organisation, you don't need to hold an approved supplement under this TAM. Components, including complete engines and propellers, are mutually accepted, as are releases from D1 rated organisations. So the TAM, Section B for aircraft rated AMOs that require to hold a supplement. Contents of it are pretty much as you would expect. Talks about maintenance releases, talks about performance and maintenance, and we'll look at what it says about those, the procedures for an initial and for continuation and for amendment. Also contains an example supplement and the Transport Canada Form 260864, which is the application form for an initial approval or an amendment in accordance with this agreement. So remember, if you're looking for information about UK-based organisations, you're now going to Section B. And Section C is for Canadian-based aircraft rated AMOs. So we're going to have a quick look at this introduction to Section B, and that part highlighted there. Once again, this reinforces what I've said, that component rated AMOs, and that includes D rated, will be reciprocally accepted between Transport Canada and the UK CAA. So you will not hold a Transport Canada approval. You will not need to hold a supplement. Releases on a CAA Form 1 single release are acceptable into the Canadian market. And of course, the reciprocal of that, you can accept a Transport Canada Form 1 single release for installation onto a G-registered aeroplane. So we have gone for mutual acceptance of components up to and including complete engines, propellers, and a D1 rated organisation can carry out an NDT inspection and issue a CAA Form 1 for that inspection, and that will be acceptable to the operator of a C registered aeroplane. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Performance and maintenance under this term. So what this says is an AMO with a supplement improved in accordance with the TAM will be able to certify aircraft under the regulated control of Transport Canada. Transport Canada will no longer issue organisation approval numbers. You won't hold a Transport Canada organisation approval number. What you will have is an approved supplement to your MOE, which will describe your compliance with the TAM. Once you have that approved supplement, you will be listed on the UK CAA's website of organisations that are holding an approved supplement. A Canadian operator then will go and review that website and that will tell them whether or not they can put their aeroplane in with you. So you won't be holding a Transport Canada approval, you won't be holding a Transport Canada approval number. There is no need to use a Transport Canada approval number on an aircraft release because you won't have one. You will just release it on your your UK 145 number. Just to reiterate how this will work, when you have hold an approved supplement, a Transport Canada approved supplement to your MOE, you will be listed as an organisation with an approved supplement on the UK CAA website, and that will inform Canadian operators that you are able to maintain and release their aeroplanes. The scope of your approval will match the scope and ratings issued by the UK CAA, so there's no real change there. Maintenance release under the TAM. As I said, you will release the aircraft for maintenance, including your Part 145 approval number. You won't have a Transport Canada approval number to do so. You will need to ensure that the people who are authorised to release understand their commitments in accordance with the TAM and the TCCA supplement. So you'll need to be able to demonstrate that you have trained them in the TAM and the TCCA supplement. With that then, and with your listing on the CAA website of organisations that hold an approved Transport Canada supplement to their MOE, that will enable you then to release C-registered aeroplanes under this agreement. Next slide, please. Some of the differences in the initial application process. There's a new application form which I touched upon there. That's listed in the TAM. A minimal Transport Canada involvement in this in the process. As part of the process, we're required to inform Transport Canada of any line stations outside of the UK and Northern Ireland Territory. And Transport Canada will review those on a case-by-case basis. I don't know if Jeff or Dean would like to comment on that at this point.
Thanks, Pete. I think the important point on this regarding line stations is that the territorial limitations are in place for Canada and the UK. And case by case, we will authorize a domestic organization to extend any aircraft privileges to those line stations outside of the territorial limitations, but it's case by case.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. So basically, you'll apply on the Transport Canada application form. We will review the supplement, and we will review your ability to comply with the supplement. If there are any line stations outside of UK territory, we will let Transport Canada know. As Jeff said, they will review that on a case-by-case basis. And then if your application is successful, we will issue you with a supplement approval letter, and we will list your organisation on our website amongst a list of organisations that hold approved Transport Canada supplement. That then will give the Canadian operators information that they can use you to look after their C-registered aeroplanes. The continuation process then, in order to remain approved under the TAM and to remain listed on the CAA website as an organisation with an approved supplement, you need to remain in compliance with your Transport Canada supplement, and you have to allow us and the Transport Canada unimpeded access for our oversight. That is all you need to do. The Transport Canada supplement approval letters are non-expiring. There's no application process required for continuation. So long as you remain in compliance and allow us access, by us I mean UKCA and Transport Canada unimpeded access, then you will continue to remain listed on our website as an organisation with an approved Transport Canada supplement. Next slide, please. Quick look at the supplement then. And again, I'm just going to look at the changes. So the supplement itself, the current example supplement has a list of suggested paragraphs you can use. That's no longer there. It just contains items which must be described as opposed to sample statements. So in your supplement now, you will need to describe how you go about complying with that particular element of the TAM rather than cutting and pasting a sample statement. There are some new requirements, and we will go through these one at a time. The first new requirement is around SMS procedures. There are new requirements about contracting and subcontracting, but they really are no different from the EASA requirements in that if you are subcontracting, you have to have oversight of the unapproved organisation and you're responsible for their return to service. So there's no real difference in there. It's just that the language used in the TAM has expanded upon that used in the MAG. Slight difference in service difficulty reports, and obviously there are differences around the acceptance of components. Can I have the next slide, please? So this is quite a significant change. Now, bearing in mind, this is only for A-rated aircraft AMOs. If you are maintaining C-registered aircraft that are used for commercial air transport that fall under this criteria here, then you will be required to develop a safety management system. So that's aircraft used by a Canadian operator for commercial air transport, heavier than 8618 maximum takeoff mass, or authorized for more than 20 passengers, or a helicopter with greater than more than 20 seats, excluding the pilots. If the aircraft you maintain fall into that category, you will need to develop an SMS. There is some guidance material available. There are 2 Transport Canada advisory circulars. And if you Google those, they will come up. And Transport Canada have provided us with an SMS checklist that we will use for assessment of an initial SMS. And really, this just looks at the basic framework of an SMS. So have you got a management plan? Have you got a safety policy and reporting policies? Have you established clear roles and responsibilities? Then it comes on to having a hazard reporting process, a process for analysis and corrective actions. Now, if you comply with 376/2014, which you should do, you will have quite a lot of this in your systems anyway. So what the initial assessment is looking at is basically that you have the framework there for an SMS. For ongoing oversight, we will use the SMS evaluation tool, and a copy of that is available on our website. But certainly in the initial process, what we'll be looking at here is using the Transport Canada supplied checklist, really to look that you have a framework in place for a basic SMS. Jeff and Dean, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
I think the slide articulates the requirement, and I think it's just important. This is one of the changes to you know, the current requirements in our MAG with EASA. And although it will be coming eventually to our agreement with EASA to include SMS, we needed to include SMS on a equal level to what we require for our Canadian organizations. So the important point here is if you're maintaining Canadian commercial aircraft operating under a 705 operating certificate, that's when you need, as an aircraft maintainer, to ensure your supplement includes SMS. And the SMS is only applicable to a CAR 705 air operator. You may be maintaining other commercial aircraft that are under a C registration that could be used for air taxi or aerial work or other types of operation. They do not require you to have SMS. It's only the CAR 705 airline operations. So these are our scheduled air carriers. And so we're obviously going to be assisting the UKCAA as well when they receive a supplement with the SMS requirements. But as Pete said, there's some checklists developed, the guidance is out there, and we have implemented this requirement in a couple of our other agreements, and things have gone very well. It's not very cumbersome to include SMS as part of your supplement, based on our experience with organizations that are currently not required to have SMS as part of your main organization structure. So we're not anticipating a lot of roadblocks. It should go fairly smoothly, and we're here to help the UKCAA and the UK organizations accordingly.
Thanks, Jeff. Could we have the next slide, please? So as I said, there are two advisory circulars from Transport Canada available there to give organisations guidance on the kind of things that they're looking for in the basic framework. We also have guidance on our website, SMIGC guidance for small operators. If you Google those two advisory circulars, you can get them quite easily. We're quite willing to share a copy of the SMS requirements checklist that we will be using to help you prepare. If you want a copy of that, please feel free to contact your surveyor and we'll get you a copy through that route. Okay, can we have the next slide, please? The next slight difference then is service difficulty reporting, really, and that just references the service difficulty reporting form, Canadian form 240083, and there also is a web link in the TAM. If you click onto that web link, that will bring you to the service difficulty reporting form, and you can make your reports through there. Other than that, there's nothing that falls outside our system. If it's reportable under 145A60, then it's reportable under the Transport Canada approvals within the same 72 hours requirement. So just use the link available in the TAM that will get you access to the service difficulty reporting form, and you can make your reports through that way. Next slide, please. Quick look at acceptance of new components, and once again here I'm only looking at the differences. So subparagraph A there purely recognises the CAA Form 1 as a acceptable component for a new part for installation onto a C-registered aeroplane. Subparagraph E now talks about a Transport Canada circular. If you Google that Transport Canada circular, you can gain access to it, and that gives further information on the acceptability of components for installation onto C-registered aeroplanes. Next slide, please. So a quick change in used components. So the first one there talks about used components from an EASA or UK Part 145 or other approved maintenance organisation holding a valid TCCA CAR 573 approval if required. What that if required means is that it is required for an EU-based organisation to releasing on an EASA Form 1 to hold a Transport Canada approval. It is not required for a UK organisation releasing on a CAA Form 1 to hold a Transport Canada approval, because I've already said under this arrangement, component parts are mutually acceptable. Subparagraph D there talks about components from an EU maintenance organisation that doesn't have a Transport Canada supplement shouldn't be used, even if accompanied by an EASA Form 1. So that hasn't changed. You can have used components on multiple releases, that's acceptable. And again, reference to the Transport Canada advisory circular for the acceptability of any parts that fall outside of the above provisions. Next slide, please. So transition arrangements for A-rated organisations. So you can continue to operate under the EU Transport Canada MAG until the expiry of your current supplement approval letter. At the time or before such time, you'll need to make an application for approval under the TAM. So at that time, you'll need to make an application following the initial approval process under the TAM. So you need to do that before your current supplement letter expires. At the time of making that application, you will need to have established an SMS. So you will need a basic structure of one, as I said before, the management plan, the safety policy, the reporting policies, the roles and responsibilities identified and people in those roles. But it doesn't need to be operating. Your SAGs don't need to have met and produced minutes. You don't need to have operating risk registers. You need to have the structure in place. We'll look at how the SMS performs in our ongoing oversight using the CAA evaluation tool. For organisations that their supplement letters expires early in 2021, we will extend the supplement approval letters to allow you time to comply with the need to make the application and to establish a baseline SMS. So for non-A rated AMOs, if we have the next slide, please. For non-A-rated AMOs, your current supplement approval letters will no longer be valid after the 1st of January 2021. That's because those approval letters have been issued under the Transport Canada EU agreement, and we won't be part of that from the 1st of January. Under the working arrangement, all components, including complete engines and propellers, will be mutually accepted. So you don't need to hold a Transport Canada approval, as I've said, if you are a non-A rated organisation. If you're one of these organisations that has A ratings and C ratings, and you have your A rating purely because it's on your EASA certificate, although you don't use it for business with Canadian customers, then you have a decision to make. If you're not going to use your A rating, then you can just let us know and continue to operate as a C-rated organisation under mutual acceptance. If you wish to retain your A rating, then you will need to apply before your supplement letter expires for approval under the TAM. So that's a decision for yourselves, that's a business decision for yourselves. Next slide, please. So that's it. Any questions, please, Mark?
Okay, thank you very much, Pete and Jeff. We have quite a few questions actually, but quite a lot of them actually are quite similar. So I'm going to sort of paraphrase quite a few of them to try and sort of just alleviate the question and answer. So most of them are around, quite a few questions are around the Transport Canada approval for component organisations, which we've just gone through. So can you just reconfirm the fact that that is no longer required after the 1st of January?
Yes, I've said that a number of times. Jeff, do you want to confirm that one for me as well, please?
Yes, that is confirmed. So if after January as of January 1st, you will not need to have any supplement or additional approvals to work on Canadian components.
Okay, thank you very much. So that means then their supplements, if it's a component organisation, their Transport Canada supplement they have at the moment, they can delete it. Is that correct?
Exactly. And so the UK Form 1 will be automatically accepted with your UK 145 AMO approval as of January 1st.
And that will include D-rated organisations who will be able to make releases on a CAA Form 1 for the inspections they've carried out on a Canadian operated aeroplane. Is that correct?
Right.
Thank you.
So one of the questions is, you know, they have an approval number at the moment, and the question is, will that be revoked or will that be just expire?
So that's just going to naturally expire. So, you know, from the EASA point of view, for the aircraft rated AMOs, you currently have a supplement. It's a 2-year continuation, and that's why we have a 2-year implementation process. If you're a component rated organization only, and you're currently approved with the EASA TCCA MAG, there is no continuation as of the revision that we're working with right now. So as part of that transition, you will need to transition over obviously into the UK model. And as part of the UK model, you will not need the supplement for working on Canadian components.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. So I think from an administrative point of view, the UK CAA is going to write to you probably just before the 1st of January to give you, the details of the UK Canadian working arrangement, and you know, and confirm with you that those approvals are no longer required because we're mutually accepted. So that email or a letter will be sent to you just prior to the 1st of January.
And also, if you're an A-rated organisation, your approval comes through your approved supplement and your listing on the CAA website. You won't be holding a Transport Canada approval as such. Therefore, you won't have a Transport Canada approval number. Therefore, there won't be any number for you to put down on an aircraft release. You will merely use your UK Part 145 approval number on the aircraft release.
Right. So there's a little bit of clarification with this question, because does this mean that of January 2021, our current TCCA certificates are no longer applicable? They don't actually have TCCA certificates at the moment. They've got UK supplement approval letters. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So those letters for components will lapse, and you no longer require them. But for A-rated organisations, it will continue until such times you transition into the new UK agreement. Is that correct?
Yes, on transitioning into the new UK agreement and having your supplement approved under the conditions of the TAM, we will issue a new supplement approval letter, which will be non-expiring. The only time that supplement approval letter will change will be at an amendment, but there will be no expiry date on it.
Okay. Question is there anything that needs to be amended in the supplement straight away? Now, obviously, this is just for A-rated organisations.
No.
No.
No, you can carry on with your existing supplement under the EU Transport Canada MAG until you transition, and of course you've got to transition before the current expiry date on your supplement approval letter.
Okay, this is more about, you know, in terms of components. So, will an existing current TCCA approved component rated organisation that no longer needs to hold the supplement be listed on the CAA website automatically, or will that need to be applied for this post-transition?
No, that will automatically happen. Come the 1st of January, complete mutual acceptance. You don't need to hold a Transport Canada approval. You don't need to apply for anything. Your current supplement approval letter will lapse. Any releases you make on a Transport Canada Form 1, on a CAA Form 1 will be accepted by the Canadian maintenance community.
So just an extra piece there for Pete is that on the CAA website, we do already hold the approved organisations. So anyone can look at any time, it looks at the approved organisations in any approval type on the CAA website. That will obviously be updated to remove those approvals that are no longer needed from the 1st of January, but your UK 145 approvals will be listed there. Is there any Transport Canada AMO SMS requirement for aircraft carriers with aircraft above 5700 kilograms?
So the SMS requirements are only for aircraft rated AMOs performing work on our CAR 705 air operators. Those are our airline operations. So aircraft that are operated commercially that are less than 5,700 kg, but the weight doesn't really matter, because if you're not a if you are a Part 7 operator, but you're not 705, there are no SMS requirements applicable. Our SMS requirements are only applicable to CAR 705 aircraft and associated aircraft rated AMOs. And so it's really straightforward. And essentially, it's the same requirement within the ICAO framework. And so that's why we're asking you to comply essentially with our requirements, which are equivalent now to ICAO.
Thanks, Jeff. We are a 145 organisation looking to get an approval for TCCA. Will there be any changes for gaining that approval after the 31st of December? So I think this is obviously just be for A-rated organisations.
Well, if you've applied now, then you're applying under the current EU Transport Canada arrangements. The administrative process after the 31st of December is different in that it's much more streamlined. So it depends whether your application is, whether we're currently working on your application or whether it's an application that you will be making post the 1st of January as to how it will be handled. So I'm not really sure what your situation is based on that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So do you count an engine as a component, i.e. B-rated organisation is no longer required to hold a supplement and an approval?
The requirement to hold a supplement is for aircraft rated AMOs. So that's A-rated. If you're not A-rated, if you're not an aircraft rated AMO, you don't require a supplement.
Okay, interesting. So this one is, what document should a B-rated UK-based AMO refer to ensure compliance of acceptable new and used component installation? Will this be only what is outlined in the UKCA Part 145 regulation structure?
If you're a B-rated UK-based AMO, you will carry out your work in accordance with, well, currently EASA Part 145 and will be UK Part 145. And providing you comply with the UK Part 145 regulation structure, there is no further requirements. That the output is acceptable to the Canadian organisation.
Yeah, And also we can accept Canadian Form 1s to be able to be fitted to an engine in the UK. Okay, in section C of the TAM, is there a reciprocal agreement that TCCA Form 260864 issued on used components can be accepted for fitment on UK registered aircraft?
I don't. That form is an application form for an approval. Transport Canada organisation will issue a Transport Canada Form 1.
Right.
Transport Canada Form 1, a single Transport Canada release is acceptable for installation onto a UK registered aeroplane. We have gone for mutual acceptance of components up to and including complete engines and propellers.
Okay, thank you. To be clear, a Canadian Part 145 or an EASA TCO, third country approval, to carry out work on in the UK on a UK aircraft will remain valid from the 1st of the 1st, 2021 until the approval expires. Pete.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. So right, I'm with you now. Yeah. So if you're a Canadian AMO with an EASA approval, you can carry out work on UK registered aircraft from the first, yeah, for at least 2 years. We've recognised the output of the EASA system for at least 2 years. So a Canadian AMO with an EASA third country approval can maintain UK registered aircraft for at least the full 2 years. It's down to the camo and the operator then. The camo would need to request a practice 3 release, but yes, yes they can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's fine. So this is a general question. We keep having issues with operators accepting EASA Form 1 with the FAA system, and I assume it's the same with other NAAs. How will the requirement for operators to accept different NAAs release paperwork be instructed so that we can use our Form 1 instead of the possibly getting dual release? Will this must work the other way around? How do we, or will the CAA operators accept another NAA release?
Well, I think the answer for that is the exercise that we've just gone through here today. My colleagues Jeff and Dean will be going through with Canadian industry in early December. And I'm sure that information will be passed on at that point. Jeff?
Yeah, so I think this is one of the issues that you have, especially as well, it doesn't really matter if you're aircraft or component. You're always wondering, you know, about dual releases, acceptability of parts, right? So that's why we published AC 571024 a number of years ago as a one-stop shopping, so to speak, for quick questions on acceptability of parts. So if you're a UK organization, you will be able to install parts based on your UK CAA Form 1. You will be able to install a part that is part of the EASA mag with a dual signature, not only for up to 2 years, but if that part is coming from Europe and it has an EASA Form 1 with a dual signature with a Canadian release on it, you'll be able to install that part on a Canadian product in the UK. But you could also use any other part from any of our bilateral countries when it comes to installation of parts onto aircraft. And what we really recommend is if you're working on a Canadian aircraft in the UK, you're sourcing parts, make sure you're sourcing parts that are acceptable in accordance with our international agreements. And the AC 571024 is a great reference.
Thanks, Jeff. That's great. Last one, which we may or may not be able to answer. We're a UK Part 145 C-rated repair station and have a Transport Canada approval. We've applied for an EASA third country approval. Will we need to keep the TCCA approval number for the EASA TCCA dual release? Will we need to apply again to be able to do dual release on EASA TCCA Form 1? So this is a UK-based organisation with an EASA third country approval.
Well, that's a question for EASA.
Yeah.
C-rated organisation, your Transport Canada approval number in the UK is vested in your UK Part 145. So come the 1st of January, that will cease, as we've said. If you want to hold Transport Canada approval through the EASA Canada bilateral, that's a question that you will need to take up with EASA. That's not one we can answer, I'm afraid.
So Pete, I can maybe add just a little clarity to that scenario. So if you're a UK-based 145 organization doing component work, we will accept your UK Form 1 as of January 1st. If that organization has other regulatory approvals and you are going to sign a part with a dual release based on those other approvals, it won't matter to Transport Canada as long as it's done on that UK CAA Form 1, because that's automatically acceptable even with a dual or multiple release on it.
Yeah, I think, and thanks for the clarification there, Jeff. You won't need a Transport Canada approval under the EASA third country because you can release on a UK CAA Form 1 and that's acceptable.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So another example, though, very quickly in there is perhaps you have a supplement based on the agreement with another country other than EASA or the EU member country. And in that scenario, you may release the component with a dual release. As long as it's on the UK CAA Form 1, it's automatically acceptable to Transport Canada.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. So that concludes the questions. So thank you very much, guys, for doing that. That was wonderful. And we will move on to the next presentation. Thank you very much for your time and your efforts.
Thanks, Jeff. You take care.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Pete.
So the next presentation we're going to go on to now is the Memorandum of Understanding between the UKCA and ANAC of Brazil. And again, Pete will lead us through that presentation with other members of the team.
Okay. I'd just like to welcome Gustavo Carneiro, who's going to be supporting me on this. Gustavo is a civil aviation regulation specialist with the Brazilian authority ANAC. So what we're looking at here is the Memorandum of Understanding between the UK CAA and ANAC for the promotion of civil aviation safety. So once again, it's an agreement between authorities, and we've already sort of looked at the basis for that, and that's been discussed by Mark and Dominic in their presentations. So if we could go on to the next slide, please. Gustavo now is going to give us a quick overview of the structure of ANAC so that we can get an idea of how the organisation operates before we get into a look at the agreement. Gustavo, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Pete. So hello, everyone. So good afternoon. This is Gustavo from ANAC. Well, I just asked Pete to present something here that it's a little transparent to you, but it affects a little our MAG. You see some new acronyms, new areas, branches. So very recently, ANAC changed it internally. So the Department of Airworthiness used to be responsible for the maintenance organizations, certification, but then it was changed to Department of Flight Standards last month. So this is important because now it's a new internal structure that will be ultimately responsible for the organizations in UK. So please, next slide. Okay, so here is the Department of Flight Standards organizational chart. Just to give an idea. So in the right side, we have the GTOM. I'm not sure if you can read it. It's highlighted in red square. So they are ultimately responsible for the companies, for the foreign companies, foreign maintenance organizations. Of course, the British AMOs will deal directly with the CAA normally in a daily basis, but this is the branch that is responsible ultimately here in ANAC. In the left side, we can see the other part that I highlighted is where I'm working, is the GTNO that is responsible for the agreements with maintenance scope. So all the revisions, new developments, we will be involved. So this is just to give you an information, because you will see some new acronyms, new areas in the MAG that is coming. So just to inform you that. Next slide, please. Yeah, Pete, I think that now it's with you, right?
Okay, thank you very much, Gustavo. So really a quick look again, as we did previously, at the structure of the agreement. We have the Memorandum of Understanding. That is the main document between the two authorities. On the certification side, we have the TIP, does exactly what all the other TIPs do. And down the maintenance side, we have the Maintenance Annex Guide. And again, that fulfills the same functions as it's always done and as it does in the other agreements. Next slide, please. So the scope of the agreement is, as you would expect, covers monitoring of aeronautical civil components, oversight of in-service aircraft, oversight of maintenance organisations, production organisations, the approval of design data, mods and that. So it covers exactly the same scope that the previous agreement did and that the agreements with the other bilateral partners do. Next slide, please. Some of the differences again. So really all I'm going to do here is look at the differences in the MAG. And the first difference here we have is a requirement for a fee that's been introduced. And removal of specific regulatory requirements, so we now only have special conditions, whereas previously we had both. The introduction of the CAAI Form 1, and a couple of changes around the wording for conditions regarding access to the Portuguese language and procedures for issuance of an airworthiness verification certificate. There's a change around periodic reports each 24 months. So I'd really just like to ask Gustavo if he can give us a bit of information on the background for that one.
Yes, thank you, Pete. Yeah, what we are doing here is just trying to mirror the MAG that we have with EASA. So the MAG with EASA is changing because we are revising Annex B with new special conditions. They are not very new. They are actually a revision, some few changes. Some special conditions were removed. Others are slightly different. So in Section A, what you see as a difference is that we have there the special conditions, and some of them are a little different. Regarding the payment of fee, this is another change. This is an important change for the UK AMOs, because currently you are not required to pay the fee under the treaty that we have with EU. So, but now with the UK, there is a fee for initial, continuation, and amendment. Sorry. So this is a change that you see in section B and section C actually. ANAC, we put all the links for you to see what is the procedure. The details in the procedures are not in the MAG. We are referring to a link in the ANAC webpage. So there is everything that you need to know. This removal of the specific regulatory requirements we are also doing with EASA. So we are just simplifying this using only special conditions. I think this was a terminology confusion in the base that we have. We have these two entities, specific regulatory requirements and special conditions. We just merged and I have only special conditions now. And regarding the last three, there are changes in ANAC special conditions. So no periodic reports required anymore. So this is a removal of a special condition. And we also changing some wording in the Portuguese language special condition. We will see more details in the coming slides. And we have some changes in the worthiness verification certificate. Okay, so go back to you, Pete.
Thank you very much. Can we have the next slide, please? So a quick look at the transition process then. So organisations can continue to operate under their existing supplement, so under the EU ANAC agreement, for up to 2 years or until the renewal date, whichever comes first. Prior to the expiry of your current certificate, you need to apply for approval under the UK-Brazilian agreement in accordance with the procedures in the MAG. So basically just continue as you are for up until the expiry of your current certificate. Prior to the expiry date, you will need to apply for an approval under the UK-Brazilian agreement and then go through an administrative process, pay the appropriate fee, and then you'll be approved under the new agreement. Next slide, please. Quick look at a couple of items that have changed in the example supplement. And there is only a couple, because one of the primary goals of us agreeing this memorandum of understanding was for minimum change. And as with all of our bilateral partners, Transport Canada and the FAA, working with these people was like pushing against an open door. So being able to maintain minimum change is really something that we've managed to achieve here. So the only real changes are in the introduction and accountable manager statement, and that will need to recognise that you're now operating under an MOU. Obviously the use of the CAAI Form 1 as a release document, that's a change. And reference to acceptance of components from foreign authorities for which Brazil has a bilateral. There's a link, a web link in the document, which if you follow that web link, that will take you to the page for the information. You've got a choice of whether you have the information in Portuguese or in English, and then you just select that particular document. So minimum changes really there. Next slide, please. So this is just a revised table for the acceptance of components. There's not a huge amount of difference here between this and the existing one. In the existing one, there was a pictorial reference of how you could accept components. We've removed that really, and now it's just this table to give you the information on the acceptance of both new and used components, and it references the CAAI Form 1. There are a number of asterisks in there. In the actual table itself, in the MAG, those asterisks are all explained as to whether you're working on complete engines and propellers or whether you're working on replacement parts. So all the information there to tell you what those double, single and dual asterisk items are in the MAG. Next slide, please. This has changed slightly. The options that you have for gaining access to the Portuguese language. Gustavo, would you like to comment on this one?
Yes, Pete. Here is we are making more flexible, the same way as we are doing with EASA. So we are just using the same language here. We made the special condition a little more flexible. Just that the AMO needs to guarantee to be able to deal with such situations when they see this Portuguese language in maintenance records or something like this. So now we are considering 3 possibilities. The first one, to hire a person, is already the current possibility. And the last 2, contract an external consultant or interact with the customer, is also possible under this new MAG. So this is making more flexible so that the company can decide what to do. It's up to the AMO to maintain this capability to deal with this kind of Portuguese language records. Okay.
Next slide, please. This is a slight change. The ability to issue the annual maintenance inspection that was in the existing MAG, it's now termed an airworthiness verification certificate. In our language, it's basically an airworthiness review certificate. I don't know if Gustavo, if there's anything you'd like to talk about on that.
Yes. This is only applicable to the AMOs that are aircraft rated and that want to perform this aircraft verification. So I'm not sure if currently we have any AMOs with this kind of capability, because we have some engine AMOs in the UK, and I think one with aircraft rated. So this, what happens here is that recently we have this new 91 regulation being issued. So the IAM, the former annual maintenance inspection, was replaced by the CVA. So now we have, it's very similar, the verification, the worthiness verification, but it was add some steps. So now if the AMO wants to issue the CVA, they need to amend the current supplement, adding some more steps in order to issue the CVA for the Brazilian aircrafts. So this is a change. It's very similar to the IAM, I can say, but it was updated with something more to be more robust. Okay. Okay, Peter.
Thank you, Gustavo. And that's it. Any questions, Mark?
Okay, thank you very much, Gustavo and Pete. The question is, one question is, what do I have to do for the 1st of January with my approval?
Nothing.
Yeah, just continue. It will be valid until it expires. So, but just plan to apply for the new approval 60 days prior to the expiration date, but it will be valid until it expires. Okay. So it depends on the AMO if it's required some changes in the supplement, okay, because there were minor changes in the supplement. So it depends on the AMO what they have in the supplement, but I would say that very few changes in the supplement. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Gustavo. Will I be able to do a dual or triple release on a CAA Form 1 with the ANAC approvals?
Yeah, the MAG doesn't say this explicitly. We're just mentioning double release, but multiple release are also acceptable, provided they are doing under the Brazilian approval. So it's also acceptable.
Okay, that's great. Well, that's all the questions we have. So thank you very much. Much appreciated for the time and so forth. So that's good. So we're going to move up and sort of go to the wrap up now. And if we move to Dave Mallins, who will give us the sort of final day's comments and so forth. Dave?
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, everybody. So I hope the day has been an informative one for all of the participants. I know that there has been a huge amount of effort put in, both from a CAA perspective and I'm sure from others' perspective as well, because these things don't happen quickly and it takes a lot of time to put these things together. So thank you all for putting together these presentations today. Thank you obviously to the audience as well. Thank you for your participation. I think hopefully this has been as informative as we can make it, and hopefully it's answered your questions. Can I remind you that should you have any questions, then there is the opportunity to submit those questions via our website, and the address is there on the screen for you, and we will respond to those questions directly. So if there are any questions that you subsequently think, oh, I'm not sure we've answered, then please, by all means, do drop us a line at that email address there. final thanks to our bilateral partners as well, because this is a huge challenge as we move off to be a sovereign, and independent regulator. So thank you, Justin and Edward from Singapore. I'm not sure that they're still on, but much appreciated for their support. The two Johns from the US as well, thank you very much again. Jeff and Dean from TCCA and Gustavo from Brazil, thank you all very much for your time and your efforts to support us as we go forward. So it only leaves me to say thank you once again, and have a good evening, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Dave. So just a final thing is to say, this webinar will be put on the external website, and you will have links to that and also the presentation. So, so you will have access to all this information as well. As Dave says, please use this email address to answer any other questions. We have had a few questions around the Japan agreement. We're going to potentially do that as a separate activity. So that we give you the best information when it's available. So on that, we will finish the webinar now. Thank you very much for your attendance.